Okay, so this one, what is this about? Let's make this about what I would consider to be my healing journey. So I just did a video about talking about how, I'm trying to stop swearing so much. I'm kind of on a bit of a healing path here because um, I've been lost for a decade. My life spiraled out of control probably a little over 10 years ago now, and it's never going to come back. Talking about social problems here and the problem of fascism. Well, this city was always had its problems, but it wasn't as bad as that in institution as far as I ever knew it growing up. Be it primary school, high school, it had its problems. I didn't get along with my high school vice principal because he was a real piece of work and he liked to go around harassing people. I never had problems with my teachers. They always liked me, joked around, got along, no problem. Had a great time in primary school. Everything was fun and fine and good. I've held jobs pretty much all of my life, right out of high school and all of that and going into university. I never really had any problems. My history is being like a coordinator usually, but I've worked retail, I've worked government jobs and all of this. I've done all of that sort of thing. I've done like handiwork and respite work and things of this nature, working with a number of sort of community orgs and care populations, really. So my history is actually a pretty meek and mild one. I've never really had an anger problem. Uh, you know, so what? Why? What went wrong? I mean, well, a lot definitely did go wrong, and it happened in my second university degree, and I ran into a Nazi. Is what went wrong? Like a full-fledged fascist, daughter of a former chief of police who had embedded herself in the social work program at the university of in my city, and they seem to be covering up efforts to stifle reports of child abuse, really. In particular, child abuse. It was revealed in a report of one of the students giving a sort of account of student interviews of various agents involved in a couple of feminist institutions in town. And it wasn't the first time where it was reported by a student that in dealing with these institutions, there were grievously unlawful illegal activities going on as a matter of their particular chosen practice. And, me just being a pretty stand up guy, not really very much choosing to be an out loud, outspoken sort of guy. I always kind of let my academic performance speak for itself. The fact that I had the right answer gained me any kind of respect that might be due from peers or from, say, teachers and whatever. But, I made the mistake of thinking it was business as usual in that regard and noting the obvious in those moments, as it might pertain to codes of ethics, standards of practice, the law, the criminal code. Like, hey, you can't do that. Like, that's unlawful. And this is why. This is why. Well, my that professor was very much looking to maintain those breaches and that violation of basic lawful standard for the purpose of maintaining dysfunction in those institutions that made children vulnerable, right? So I made myself known as the guy who was going to speak up and say anything, and that gained her ire, and she started to swing the eye of Mordor my way, and then the next thing you know, she didn't take much, started working to try to destroy my academic career, which she did summarily do without really much difficulty through the inducement of administration to go along with her plot to destroy me. Okay, I didn't go around swearing the way I did. I didn't have an anger problem back then at all. Any indication that they might have implied that I did was absolute fabrication. It just simply wasn't true. It was absolutely meek. I was like, anyway, man. Look, I was a psychology graduate. I graduated with the Hartman Award, which is like the highest GPA among all graduating mature students that year across all fields, graduating in the that are subject to degree programs in the university. But I went back to get a social work degree because um, the psych program, the master's program, had a focus. It was brand new. I was waiting on it. I took a year off to pay off my debts and went back to finish up. I'll get my master's in psych, see what the new program's like. They're putting it together. Well, no dice, because I went back, I realized it was all focused on their particular program was focused on children and adolescents, which I didn't want. I didn't want to work with children and adolescents. Why? Because they're captives, basically. Like, how am I supposed to help someone who is incapable of exercising free choice or standing up for themselves, really, depending on what the situation is, right? It's just what intelligent means are at my disposal to help them improve their own life, aside from just helping parents nurture an environment that allows those kids to develop optimally. There's not a lot you can do for the kids themselves, in my mind, as a grown up. You have to just kind of let them become who they're meant to become after you foster certain conditions. I didn't have any interest in that, so I took the social work professional degree, and I was well on my way. I mean, first year, first year classes, 99%, both of them. I had a teacher that taught those classes, trying to offer me work and things like this. So I was like, okay, things are going to work out. It's going to be okay. Ran into a Nazi after that. I don't know why they. But she was involved in efforts to stifle reports of mandated reporters that were there to report suspected instances of child abuse. And she was there to take out, in particular, men who were trying to either defend themselves or advocate for their children. Because that's when she started to attack me, when I noted, like, hey, look, you can't. Say in one instance, a student reported in one organization, like, upon basic report of something, say a man reported to be some kind of a scoundrel or this and that, they would activate all kinds of resources on the part of the institution to informally, like, go about destroying the guy's life, like, just destroying his life. Like, you can't just start activating all these formal resources with money taken from grant money from the government. Who knows where else you're getting this money? You can't take that and then take these agents that are supposed to be bound to something like the code of standards and ethical practice of the College of Social Workers, Social Service Workers, and then turn these agents into, like, weird splinter agents where they all of a sudden just start going on random, missions to assassinate people, and their character and their lives. Like, you can provide help and supports and direct people to needed resources, but you can't, like, go destroying men on a simple fucking like a simple accusation without any evidence. So, I mean, imagine what could happen. I mean, she's a prostitute mother. She wants to steal your kid and run your kid as a prostitute. You didn't know. You married her, right? You thought she was nice or whatever. Turns out she's not so nice. And all she has to do is go on, oh, this guy did this or whatever else. No evidence, whatever. And then they're like, okay, cool. How would you like us to absolutely destroy him? So I'm like, you can't do that. And that man, she really hated that. And from that day onward, she really went about trying to destroy my life. And uh, I mean, look, she was attacking me about everything from that point onward. Just like, it's a long story, but she was trying to get rid of me at that point. And the next year, it really came down hard when, in a student report about an institution in town, there was a report of like informal policies of not reporting instances of child abuse for purpose of keeping mother and child together. That's how it was stated. For purpose of keeping mother and child together. I kind of like noted again, like, what do you mean? We're mandated reporters. Informal policy of not reporting seriously suspected instances of child abuse. The main answer being to keep the mother and child together. What if they shouldn't be together? Who makes that call? Who's deciding whether it gets reported or not? Like, we're supposed to report. What are we doing with this information? It just like disappears? We pretend like we didn't see it? So I mentioned it. I'm like, I'm reporting. I'm reporting this right now. I'm going to call the police. I put it on the message boards. I'm like, it's our job. I'm calling the police. I didn't know that prof was the daughter of the former chief of police. And she called him, the former chief of police, and he intervened on my call to the police. Like, he called them ahead and said, look, this guy's calling. They shredded my report. They shredded it and they replaced it with her report, which is like, oh, there's this guy in class. He's, some kind of a weirdo, or, oh, sometimes he wears glasses in class. She knew I had a disability. I reported it to her, and she knew I was suffering insomnia and I was wearing glasses because of the light. She knew that. I was having a hard time with her class, the worst class I've ever had. Like I said, I was kind of an ace in school, not because I'm a genius, but because I work. I work. I get it done. And I try to find the right answer. And yeah, so she just spun it like that, just buried the truth of it, and it was like, oh, there's this weirdo. Look out, maybe you should check up on him, make sure he's not too crazy. uh, anyway, something along these lines, right? So that was just the beginning. Anyway, she finds a way to basically just get the dean to just expel me without any consideration of my rights or anything like that. Um, None of the student codes or rights documents were consulted. I wasn't given any opportunity for hearing. I wasn't given any opportunity to submit facts or evidence. I wasn't given any opportunity to anything like that. Just bang, like 2 paragraph letter from the dean, and I'm out after trying to build a career my entire life and really putting it all on the line to do it. Gone. It's over, right? So, that was tough, and me going into that and looking into it, finding out what happened, calling in the documents. I had to go through the Information and Privacy Commissioner. All of this, I went through an internal tribunal effort with the university, only to see them screwing me around at all turns. It it was bad until I realized I had to bring it to the Human Rights Tribunal, which I did. And it was a fight that lasted 3-4 years, and I mean, that wasn't the main problem, because at this point I knew kids were in danger. I mean, they were in big time danger, quite possibly, because what she showed me was everything that they do to people they don't want successfully filing or reporting things. What I suspected they were probably doing to kids, they did unto me. So I got to see what would happen if you were a kid and you are being abused or something, and you're like, okay, I need someone to help me. I saw what happened with the police. I saw what happened with everybody else you might choose to seek out to report. I saw how they intimidate you with police officers. They send police officers with pedophile names after you, like Bond villains, to intimidate you and scare the shit out of you. I had to fight these people for like 4 years, and they did everything that they could to try to stop me from being able to effectively do anything. They had an army of lawyers, small army of lawyers against me. I couldn't do anything. I could not stop fighting on any given day because they would file, obstructive motions on the part, of their lawyers. Their lawyers were doing it on the part of the people they were representing, to try to get the case buried at all terms, making no sense, just the worst kind of garbage arguments. But I would have to refute them. I'd have to fight them in order to keep the case alive. Buried. Pained by this, man. For 4 years, I barely got any sleep, arguing with the people, the worst kind of people you would never want to talk to. They're just trying to hurt you, trying to kill you. Any sane moderator would have been like, guys, you gotta shut up. We're hearing this case. But they didn't do that, not until the very last minute with the hearing, because it was clear the HRTO was going to hear it, the Human Rights Tribunal. They're like, no, we're hearing it. And they, trust me, they shredded. I had a number of cases in motion because the whole city attacked me. Institutions all over attacked me. You want to get anything done easily, sanely with, your walk-in clinic? I don't think so. I had to file against a number of people, but guess what? They didn't hear those. They didn't hear any of those because those they could, even though there were more evidence, I had video evidence and all of this stuff. With those cases, it didn't make it look so terrible for the HRTO. They could say, well, this is not altogether too interesting, even though there are human rights violations clearly. With the school, it was like, it had pedophile written all over it. By the time I was done pulling records and showing what happened. So, it would have looked real bad for the government, right? To have buried that. So that's why they did, not because they were concerned with my rights, but because they didn't want to have the federal government, or the Ontario government in any way, possibly federal, after I filed with everybody. I didn't just, it wasn't about me winning my case, it was about me getting the evidence out to anyone who could be at the desk so that they could say, hey, look, kids are in danger. They're vulnerable. They cannot get a report through. Someone blocked the line of reporting that's required to stop predators and save victims. Okay? So that's what it was about. I spent almost 30 grand in papering this whole country with, huge evidence boxes of evidence dumps that cost me $300 some bucks a pop every time I'd send it to one institution or one party. Every day was hell. It just broke my back. So you see me swearing and freaking out. Well, that's because for the better part of a decade, I was under terrible torture. And then for the next part of the decade, I had to do renovations at a house here that it was just this cheap house my family put me into because they couldn't stand me going through the lawsuit when I was living there. It was terrifying them. It was driving them crazy. They had a life, and meanwhile, I'm losing it because I snapped. I snapped. I chose never to work with kids because, like I said to my social work teacher at the time, I'm like, I couldn't go to work with kids in the psych program because if I'd found out that anyone was doing anything to them, I would lose my cool. As decent enough as I am at doing what I was doing and thinking I could possibly handle work and a job or whatever, I knew that was a huge problem for me, a huge weakness. And they hit me with it, man, like a ton of bricks. Like they ran it right into me like a Mack truck. And it drove me nuts. Drove me absolutely insane in a way. Not insane. Kept my cool, like totally on the job. But it broke my ability to be professional and to maintain a sense of composure. And I became something like I don't know, a berserker, maniac. Mania is what it is. And I'm still suffering with that. I'm recovering. And I swear a lot sometimes when I allow myself to do it. And then I catch myself and I'm like, I don't need to do that. It's not who I am. It's not who I was, who I have been. So, something to think about, a bit of flurry of videos there to begin with. It's not who I am, but it's who I've become. It's not outside of really how I could choose to be at any given time, maybe, some earlier times in my life, but it can get carried away, and let's just be honest, it isn't it isn't necessarily how I want to be either. So, something to think about, when we see people and we maybe think, well, wow, that guy's, hey man, maybe that guy should, he should maybe be a little bit more like this, or, oh, that guy's a fucking loud. Look, trust me, man, there's nothing you could have done in academics that could have taken me. I'm telling you, I would have beaten you. For 2 years straight, I was the top mark on everything. Okay? Every test, every assignment, every exam, it was me. And trust me, I was as cool and calm as it got. I was Mr. Take Notes and have the right answer. And I was going to parties and stuff like that, but, people knew that I had it on lock, man. Until I had a girlfriend, like, ran into trouble with her at one point later, and I got distracted. I had to go chase after that. So my marks took a bit of a drop there. But what's the point of living if you can't take a chance on it and get past your perfect GPA in order to do it? So, I don't know, man. Something to think about, something to know about me. I'm going to talk about that case more until maybe I still am trying to publish it, but it's a 600-page affidavit without getting into the evidence. The main offender, the daughter of the former chief of police, is deceased. She's no longer, well, that's so they have us believe. She no longer lives. But her conspirators do, co-conspirators do, and they're still at the university. So I would say look out and avoid it, because they're bad people. They are bad people, man. I settled that case. I gave the information to anyone who could have it, so there's nothing more I could do with that. I had to take the remedy for my own reasons. I was 30 grand in debt and I owed money to people. Don't anymore. I paid it. But she's, I don't know what happened. She might have had a medical issue or something. But that Nazi bitch ain't with the living, or at least not on paper, because, well, the world's a better place either way. Maybe, hopefully, at least at the level of institution, if she's not there, she's not spoiling the post and destroying innocent Canadian lives, though her co-conspirators almost certainly are, right? So, something to think about. Um, yeah, I'm not going to swear all the time. I did my little flurry to begin with. Maybe you guys think you know this or that about me. We'll see. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Again, I'll talk about this case again in the future, in detail, along with many other things, because we live in the age of Nazism, and in the age of Nazism, child trafficking is a reality. Human trafficking is a reality. And if you're going to fight it, let me tell you right now, man, it's going to take your everything, your courage, and you got to have a plan to survive. We've got to be strong in union, or else you won't. And I'll tell you right now, you might even have to fight your own. You might have to fight your own. You might have to fucking near threaten to burn the house down. I'll tell you that, in order to maintain the line, because I was told, like, I sought sanctuary there. I was almost thrown to the curb. I would have lost the whole case. I would have lost everything. I was highly invested too. And the answer was not P's and Q's, because people defect in ways you wouldn't expect. And you better get creative about surviving and making a point, getting through to people, because they will use any kind of conformity, P's and Q's disposition that you have, and they will they will use their scoundrel tactics to overwhelm it. And you've got to show them that you speak that off-color language better than they do, and you got to show them that you are not fucking around. So, okay, something to think about. I just thought I would mention that part about who I am and what I've been going through. We're going to talk about that. What else do I want to say for now? Love, man, love. Is there any room for love or anything like that after tragedy? I don't know. I'm still healing. What I'm saying is I'm still healing. It's a very messed up situation, so hopefully everybody will be patient with me, because it's a healing journey I've mostly taken on my own. And like I said, I don't really believe that healing happens ideally or easily on your own. It's a collective thing. Human needs are ultimately become social in nature, and that means that to get to the answer, it takes a community to help support people through that recovery. And I haven't had that. I haven't had anything like it, and I've been all alone in a lot of pain most of the time. And my recovery has been ranting and raving and carrying on to myself. And while it's a coping mechanism, it's not always altogether healing. It's like being set on fire, really. But there's a vigor that is seemingly therapeutic about that burn when you're in the midst of it, especially when the survival of your crises required you to fight through every minute, even when you were dead tired, hadn't slept in days, your brain is melting. I think I got brain damage from all the all-nighters I pulled. I used to do it in university. It helped me be as good as I was, at least to the grade. And man, did that ever, oof, that was a superpower, man. I done waxed and overdid it during these lawsuit trials afterwards, and then the renovations here, which were too much. That was the wrong time. I did not need that at the time, but I'm coming out of all that, and I'm entering into a new stage of my life, and you guys are witness to that, and we'll see what happens. But this is what we're talking about. This is a radical web page, and it's one that's based on a history of anti-fascist resistance against organized criminals. So I know what it's like to fight an entire army, a whole city of nasties. It could happen to anyone. My life, its course, the way I expected it to go, is over. And I'm picking up the pieces, trying to figure out what to do now. And I don't know what to do. This is what I'm doing right now. So we shall see. We shall see how it goes.